Hey, Captain Logos here, preacher at large, teaching the word, inspiring, 5 minutes at a time. Hey, I'm studying Colossians we're going to be teaching it on Zoom on Wednesday nights here coming up soon. And so in my studies of Colossians, I came across a word. It's called fellow servant, right? Fellow servant. Syndulos in the Greek. Now, we see this word is translated interchangeably between the doulos part of syndulos is slave. Now, it's probably best that we show the difference between a servant and an actual slave, because in the Roman culture, a slave was the lowest form of life. Now remember, they're based on hierarchy and they have this class system and structure, and it is everything to be a free-born Roman citizen, right? Paul used that from time to time, because he was a free-born Roman citizen. But the epitome of Roman citizenship was the fact that you were free and nobody owned you, nobody could tell you what to do, because in Roman culture, everybody was a slave. I know today in culture, people are they're worried about slavery that happened 300 years ago. Come on, people. Every single culture has been enslaved at some point. Literally everybody was a slave unless you were a freeborn Roman citizen at this time. So, time to quit looking at the past and look to the future and be thankful that we're still not doing it. And that we're wise enough to get out of it and end it. But this doulos, so if we say servant, it's better that we translate it servant, because a doulos was actually used by the Romans as a derogatory comment. Even if you weren't a slave, if you were being put down, they would call you a doulos. The absolute worst thing in Roman culture, a slave. Now think about that. And think about what we did, the United States, right? The Declaration of Independence, 1776. Among these are, reading one of the lines, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty. Well, what is liberty? Well, liberty is freedom. Remember, we actually left England to come here so that we could worship God in our way? Oh, yeah. And then, not just the Declaration of Independence, but then the Constitution. Right? We enshrined it in the Constitution, this pursuit of liberty. Because we like our freedom. And don't try to take that away. Well, just like the Romans, we value our freedom and our liberty. We don't want to be a doulos. We don't want to be a slave to anybody. But here's the kicker. What does Christ ask us to do? He asks us to be a slave for him, a fellow servant, a syndulos, in spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. So imagine trying to spread that word that, hey, I'm going to be a slave to Christ in a Roman culture where everything was based upon this class system and the slave was the lowest form. Look, Jesus is asking you to take on the lowest form and be a servant for him, because that's exactly what he did for you. When he came and died, he came as a servant. He didn't come as a king, as a ruling conqueror. He'll come in the future as a ruling conqueror, but he came and gave his life for you as a slave. And he asked you to do the same. He asked you to give up all of that stuff that's precious to you, that liberty that allows you to do whatever you want, turn it over to Christ, and let him be your liberty. Now, get your face in the Bible.